I'm going to do roll call first. Mr. McIntosh.
Present.
Mr. Hillier. Present. Mr. Flipiak.
Here.
Mr. Carr.
Here.
Sheriff Liam Bruno.
Present.
And Commissioner Regovich is present. Thank you very much. Okay, final review for page 24. We got into this a lot last time. We left with some statements and some things to be crafted by our own prosecutor's office, and Nina gladly did so. So we have that in front of us. We can go right to the ones we didn't go, unless there's any appetite to revisit any of the old ones. But I believe in our our addendum on to page 24 that we got today, we go right to, what would be number 6? Is that your recollection, Phyllis?
We also made changes to number 2 for the removal of a PSAP upon request. And you can see I obviously made some more detailed changes to this with regard to numbering and headings, and we had to take it off of page 24 because we ran out of space. So just, this looks a lot different than what it looked like last week.
It's like a lawyer got to it. Any questions or comments for, even if you have a question or comment for Nina, the board has for, let's go with number 2. I think we kind of agreed that we were going to reword that at the last meeting.
I move to accept it as revised.
Second. Give me a second here to do the paperwork. Any comments?
This is strictly number 2 you're raising this on?
Correct, just a
Okay.
revision.
Okay.
Ready for a vote? Correct. She added language and cleaned it up for us. Any comments?
I think this generally covers it. I mean, it's understood then that a request to remove requires ongoing continuation of services until such time as an alternative is both approved by this committee. It doesn't, unless I'm reading this correctly, it doesn't really address the issue of, so that is the process. We're not going back to the communities on this.
Correct. And I think what we had last time is just given a 30-day notice.
Yeah.
So
And this only, but obviously number 6 is the non-compliance piece, so that touches that. This is only if somebody wants to make a voluntary
removal.
Yeah. I don't have a problem making that a short and straightforward process. If the community's already done the diligence and they say they want to contract or do something else, you'd think they'd need to think through it enough that if they come to us with that request, it shouldn't be a while.
Correct. And I think we have history of that with Kirtland.
Right.
So. Anybody?
So this doesn't then identify the other side of that, which is if there's an underperforming.
That's a non-compliance on number 6.
Number 6.
Okay, all right. Yeah, no, it reads well.
Okay. Take the vote. Mr. McIntosh.
Yes.
Mr. Hillier.
Yay.
Mr. Flipiak.
Yes.
Mr. Carr.
Yes.
Sheriff Liam Bruno.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich is a yes. Okay. Should I take it down to, I think everything else is the same, Nina, after that, or until?
We did expand upon number 5, which is the identification of the secondary backup, and we're referring to a third backup as an alternate. So secondary and alternate.
Can I have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Second.
So to clarify, this is, and if I recall our conversation from last week, we're maybe going a step, we are going a step further than former because we're asking each PSAP to designate us 2 alternates. There's a secondary piece and then an alternate, which is a little more thorough than was
So-
defined. The last plan didn't go to that extent. Only a few of them went that far, correct?
Correct. And I think this would be, especially if there's an automatic rollover.
Right.
And if both of them go down, then there's a third to a other PSAP.
And this requires every PSAP to go through this exercise. So we've got this whole tree of so-and-so's out, it's rippling through all of these.
Redundancy, yeah.
Yeah,
The one comment I would make on this is that you could have scenarios whereby, let's just say if let's say someone wants to get out of the business entirely, or they're, for whatever reason, they're just incapable of continuing service, and the voluntary removal service hasn't really run its course yet. Obviously, there's going to be a significant burden placed on the primary backup source going forward, which might take a little bit more deliberation and discussion, negotiation, maybe even between those two. I might just suggest that we extend that 30 days to some longer period. Again, since we understand we've got several years in all likelihood before we're fully implementing this plan, I don't know that 30 days is long enough for
I
those
think-
negotiations to take place, or the ability for those PSAPs to determine that they can back up, right?
So I think the 30 days that we talked about last time was just to give notice to us. It doesn't mean it has to happen within 30 days. It's just to
Well, it
give
says
notice
each
to this
PSAP
board.
shall provide this information.
We're just
Within 30
talking, once
days.
this plan is adopted, every PSAP within 30 days will give to the next gen coordinator their backup and their secondary backup.
You know, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt real quick because I actually had, this was an
I
earlier
understand
version.
that.
I had
That's-
actually made a change to this, and for some reason, I was having problems with when I was saving my documents, and things weren't getting correctly, they were getting overwritten by other versions. So I had a number of different versions today. I actually did change that to state that the time frame for each PSAP to provide the information to the Lake County 911 coordinator was just going to be within 30 days after receipt of notice to provide the information from the coordinator. That way it gave this committee the flexibility to not have that be a requirement until further down the road as requested by the 911 coordinator. So I apologize for the error that's in here. It's not, I did not intend it to, for the final version of this language to be 30 days after adoption of the final plan. There's going to be future point in time, 30 days after request by the 911 coordinator.
Which certainly works better for me. I mean, I haven't seen the language that Nina's referring to, but again, we're a period of time out from this whole process.
Yeah, I mean,
by the
that's
time
my,
this is
that's my
wrapped,
point, exactly. I mean, I can't tell you in 30 days, if we adopt this plan either today or in, in the
Yeah,
next
so I think
couple of meetings, I can't tell you if there's anybody in the room that can back us up other than Central, within the
And I
30
think
day,
once
can determine that.
Once we get go from the state, and I know that there is a date tentatively on the books at that point, because there's going to be some time for the PSAPs to get with their phone companies, their service providers, to make sure that the connections are made. So
Exactly. That's going to take some time,
Yeah.
is my point.
There'll be time to prepare. So I think Nina's reword is that once I get the word, I'll let everybody know, and then within 30 days of me telling you, please get it in, that we'll get that going.
So is this a Word document you have up there?
It is, yes.
Can you just retype that line then? so we can
I
complete
think
this.
she wants me to find, you want me to try to find the original? Or do you want to?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought, looking through what I had sent, for some reason, again, I was making changes to it and it was saving weird, so
So,
Captain Backnicky does not have a copy of that, but I can make that change.
so you're just inserting where it says within 30 days after, instead of adoption of the final plan, request of the 911 coordinator.
Exactly.
But even in that instance, I would say, you would hope that everyone is thinking about that and working on that, but they're not going to know when you make a request for that directly. I'm just thinking that 30 days just has to be longer, that's all. I mean, again, if there's questions that need to be answered, they were going to be waiting for you to give us that call, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, with the PSAPs that'll be functioning at that point, I mean, I'll let them know as we're going through this process. It won't be a cold call 30 days out and say, hey, get this going. I think every PSAP will be working towards that. I'll keep everybody updated as to where we are with the state. And then as they're working on that, I'll say, okay, now is the official time, 30 days from now, I need your stuff. But I would hope that every PSAP manager would be working on that prior to it through their service providers.
Why don't we just simply say something like that the coordinator shall determine a date upon which this information has to be provided. And then we assume that you're going to do that in a reasonable period of time. Give
Sure.
us plenty of notice on that, that is.
We could change that sentence to say each PSAP shall provide this information to the Lake County 911 coordinator upon request as determined by the coordinator, something to that effect.
Something to that effect. Again, I think just sticking a time period on there, it's possible that
Yeah.
some of us will wait for that request to be made, and then, if it's 30 days, that's kind of a short period of time.
Okay, so we could
Assume
say
that we're all working on that during this period of time, but the point is we have time, because we're not going to be implementing this. The plan might be implemented tomorrow, but the timeline for the next gen changeover is going to be in the future here. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put a timeline even on that.
It could be very well years in the future.
It could be a couple of years down the road, could be 5 years down the road, which gives us plenty of time. Obviously 30 days from the adoption of the plan is not real workable, but some point in the future we're going to want to know. But my simple point is we need to give cities and other organizations time to do this.
Yeah, and I believe that all.
Because it's more than just saying, sure, we'll take you guys,
But I believe that, at this point, all 8 PSAPs are working towards, software, firewalls, those things, and most of them are working towards that goal that I know of.
No, but
So they're able to keep-
with the exception of the county and Mentor, I think we're the only ones that are fully capable of backing each other up from the standpoint of taking over those primary calls, because we have compatible systems and software and hardware that we've coordinated over the years. So to your point, Captain, I mean, there's going to be some technical issues that are going to have to drive some of that ability to take those calls as a backup.
Well, if we're all on the EZNet, it should be pretty
But it's,
easy to do, right?
the call forwarding is going to require some
It will be,
technical
and
issues.
from talking to the state, I mean, the ability to handle calls at various points becomes immensely easier with the EZNet and the data transfer and where you're going to end put the call. So I think we'll find this task to be a lot easier.
And that may
once we
not
have
even be
that.
the bigger issue. The bigger issue might just be, well, do I have the people to do it? Do I have an extra desk if on Monday, on Tuesday, Monday I'm status quo, on Wednesday I've got to take on another community. Do I have the desks, the people in place to do that if that becomes a requirement?
Yeah, and that's going to take coordination.
Yeah.
between the PSAPs.
So it's going to take more than 30 days was my original thought on that. So
So I
just
guess
something that,
for flow of the plan
I'm-
here in our meeting, I mean, I say we modify what we have here so we can get it to you guys' liking and we can.
Yeah, something that just says the coordinator shall provide notice and offer reasonable time for the communities to establish a primary and secondary backup.
You have a thought of?
Should have brought Hackman's laptop. You get it done by now.
That's right. So what do we change it to say? Each PSAP shall provide this information to the Lake County 911 coordinator within a reasonable time frame as requested by the 911 coordinator.
But that
Does
works
work
for me,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? So we have this as amended, so that'll be our amended language.
Motion to approve as amended.
So we already have a motion and a second, so we just need to vote on it. Mr. McIntosh,
Yes.
Mr. Hillier, Mr. Flippia,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Sheriff Lane Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich, yes. All right. Now, number 6, non-compliances was added. After last meeting, if y'all went through that, so if I can have so it's 6 and 7. We'll do number 6. So can I have?
Motion to approve number 6, non-compliance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
So we just got this document at 11:30, and I was reading through it, so let's give it a chance to review it a little further, okay?
Sure.
Give me a break.
Do you-
A moment.
Yeah, I'd be happy to kind of walk you through the process that I sent forth here. So A and B really identify 2 different methodologies. Subsection A is for a situation where the Lake County 911 coordinator receives notice from the state 911 administrator regarding a PSAP being out of compliance with the rules that are contained in the OAC. Because that is the purview of the state 911 administrator. They're going to be enforcing those technical requirements of the Ohio Administrative Code. So in a situation where the local coordinator receives information from the state that a PSAP is not compliant with the OAC, that's what provision A details, is what that plan is, because the state is going to come back to the county 911 coordinator and say, what's your plan for compliance? Here's your time frame that you have to comply to get in compliance. So subsection A envisions having a public hearing notification to the non-compliant PSAP with regard to a public meeting to bring them before this committee to have that discussion about what the issue is for non-compliance and to develop that plan to get into compliance within the time frame that's been designated by the state. Subsection B is with regard to non-compliance with the terms or conditions of the final plan, also the OAC, and also Chapter 128 of the Ohio Revised Code. So there is a provision in the Ohio Revised Code that allows the Ohio Attorney General or a prosecutor to bring a case against a non-compliant PSAP. As part of our discussion that we had last week, this would be an internal process for the 911 Review Committee to address that in the hopes of avoiding a situation where there's a non-compliant PSAP that remains non-compliant that ends up threatening the continued funding. So subsection B would be same sort of similar process. If we believe that there is non-compliance with the plan or the Ohio Revised Code or OAC, then we would be convening a public meeting in front of this committee to bring that non-compliant PSAP before this board in order to have that same discussion about what the non-compliance issue is and to develop a plan and a timeline to achieve compliance. Subsection C is for a situation in which compliance is not achieved as set forth in that plan. And then that's going to be what this committee had previously discussed last week, to give this committee the ability to then amend the final plan to actually remove that PSAP, again, in an effort to avoid the potential loss of funding to the county due to a PSAP that remains non-compliant.
I like the language a lot. I think it's a very graduated, well-written, good process. you know, it gives any non-compliant PSAP multiple opportunities to remain in compliance, and requires a 2/3 vote if we take any action on it otherwise, so.
I think it's in the spirit of what we discussed in the
Yeah,
last
I think
meeting,
so. It doesn't, Chuck, what you were looking at before about going back and voting, but it creates a lot of due process here and a lot of opportunity for any PSAP to get back into compliance, and establishes a plan in order to do that. And it would only be a consequence of not achieving compliance with that plan that a further action would be taken, so.
Yeah, no, I'm good,
Yeah.
and the way she explained it is fine. The concern I raised at the last meeting had to do more of future boards removing, and Nina stated that's not a function of this board, so that took it off the table. So this addresses non-compliance of a unit
Well-
affecting funding.
Well, it is a function of this board. This board can remove it, but it would be based on, again, ongoing noncompliance and failure to comply with a plan to get back into
Nah.
compliance.
and not at somebody's whim or.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
meant
not just, hey, we don't like them anymore, you know, we don't think they should be.
for the point of consolidation and
Exactly,
regional. That
exactly.
wasn't, yeah, so
Yeah.
I get it, I'm good.
And this would, essentially, this would be the only means by which, or the only reason by which we would be able to remove a PSAP.
Any further discussion? We'll go for vote. Mr. McIntosh,
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard,
Yay.
Mr. Flippia,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Chair Bruno.
Yes,
Commissioner Ravitch is yes. Okay. Last on this list, but certainly not least, is number 7, and you could probably summarize that easy.
Yeah. Commissioner, I added this just for clarification because this form that we have from the state that we're using for this plan is not super workable for the situation that we have where everybody's on the E911 and we have this current plan in place, but then large portions of this plan are forward thinking with regard to switching to the next gen. So this is just for clarification to state that the current plan that we have in effect is still going to remain in fact, and then once next gen is implemented, any conflicting portions are going to be superseded by this new plan. So just to kind of make this two cohesive documents working together essentially.
So it's business as usual until we're all connected to Disneyland and we're ready to go here in Northeast Ohio from the state of Ohio.
move to accept item 7.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
So we're saying that our plan would basically, is constituted by 2 documents, the 1988 plan and then this amendment?
Yeah, pretty much that's what it's going to be. If you look at other plans that are available online, you can see that from the ones I've seen at least, they're not using this state plan because it's just a template. Again, it's not very workable for the situation. So this is just in an effort to make sure that we have all of our bases covered, because otherwise there's going to be, if we only have this new plan, there's large portions of it, like I said, that are just forward thinking and it doesn't address what we currently have in place. For example, this plan designates that we're all going to be next gen. Well, currently, right now, nobody is next gen. We're all E911 as designated by the current plan that we have in effect. So it's just to kind of cover that gap.
Would it potentially make sense in the future then to, once we get to that, to sort of merge them into a, because I understand that that contains certain background and information that isn't represented in this template. I mean, as an administrative function, not
Yeah.
to reinvent the wheel per se.
I mean, I would love to have a more comprehensive document at some point in time, and that's just a matter of who has time to sit down and do that and put it together and put it before this plan. I mean, obviously right now we're in a time crunch, so we have to get something in effect moving forward. So this is a good template to use for it, but yes, I agree. I think at some point in the future, we should probably have a more comprehensive plan. At some point though, once we're on next gen, the old plan's not really gonna matter or be effective. And the new plan has a lot of additional components that were required by the law to be in effect as of April of last year. So that's covered there. So really these are, yes, to be read together. The newer version is going to supersede the conflicting portions of the old version once we're next gen compliant.
And I did reach out to the state of Ohio on this just to get some clarification right before the meeting. This is a very common thing that a lot of people are doing with their final plans, obviously, because we only have 10 counties in the state that are actually able to use this form with the check marks for the next gen. So it's kind of a rider, a carryover to make sure that our backups are still in place once this is ratified. If we just went with this plan, this will refer us back to the other plan and allow for the backups that are already in place to continue until we get next gen in the county.
Anything further? Well, let's vote on it. Mr. McIntosh,
Yes.
Mr. Hillier,
Yay.
Mr. Flippia,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Sheriff Lane
Yes.
Bruno. Commissioner Ravitch is yes. Okay. This brings us to, unless I hear an objection, to approve the actual page 24 and to put this on the plan to send off to everyone to be voted on.
Motion to approve page 24 addition and approve the final plan for submission to the municipalities and other districts.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So once this is approved, just to clarify the procedure, so copy of this will be sent to all the voting
You're going to take it with
municipalities?
you, Bob, and it'll be on your next agenda.
I'm just, is the timing gonna be pretty quick here, because we'll
So-
only has one meeting
Yeah,
in June?
I think we are required to give 60 days, is that?
Well, once this final plan gets adopted by this committee as being the final plan, it is then required to be sent via either certified mail or regular mail and email to the municipalities and the townships and then the Board of Park Commissioners. And then the voting and the Board of Commissioners. So then the voting committees, which are the Board of Commissioners, the municipalities and the township trustees, they have 60 days after receipt of the final plan to adopt a resolution to either approve or disapprove this plan. If no action is taken within that 60-day period of time, it's considered to be disapproval. And then in order for this to go into effect, it has to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners and then the municipalities and townships that equal 60% of the population of Lake County.
So, but what I'm asking is if we can, expedite getting this on our agenda. 'Cause I know a lot of us have summer breaks and those
Right.
kind of things. And then the state meets early July, I think. So if we could get something, at least, hey, it's off there, we got so many back, or it'd be great if I can have it sent in if Captain Backnicky can have it. It's down there. So we wouldn't have to get up and get scolded in front of the group again, so.
So we have 60 days to vote on it in the local jurisdictions, but you're saying it'd be nice to have that done in 30 days?
That'd be
Yeah.
fantastic. June 30th would be the date. I would love that, but
Okay.
I understand the wheels of government move slowly sometimes, and
Maybe when you
getting on
send this out,
people's
you can make
agendas
that
are
request.
difficult. I'm making it right now.
Yeah.
Question again, what was the public notice requirement again? Is there a public notice requirement?
There's not a public notice
Okay.
requirement.
So there, it
It'd be
gets
an-
sent via certified to each political subdivision?
Correct. Or it can be sent regular mail and email.
Okay, what was the 60-day thing that
Once,
you mentioned?
once those municipalities and townships actually receive the final plan, they have 60 days.
Okay, so they can act right away if they choose, okay.
Anything further?
So just a couple, so we're getting close to the end here, right? At least for our initial, I have just a couple questions. On page 12 of the plan, I think I brought this up at one of the earlier meetings. It's this section 128.07A4, which asks the question if one of the PSAPs does not directly dispatch emergency services needed for an incident, etc., without significant delay, the request shall be transferred or the information relayed to the entity. How will that be accomplished? Isn't that asking for more of a technical response? I mean, by responding, they're asking the question, how will it be relayed? And we're answering, it will be relayed or transferred. I think if you look at some of the other plans, they're asking, what is the mechanism, or what is the actual method, mechanical, electronic method by which those transfers occur? I'm pretty sure that's asking for more of a technical response on that.
And I think the simple response to that is it's a little premature. I mean, we're still trying to figure out everybody's service providers and who they're getting to connect hosted versus unhosted systems for the EZNet connection to the state. So I think once we get more information as to which direction all these people are going, I mean, everything obviously will function off of the EZNet, how that transfer is going to take place, you know, from CallWorks to Vesta to Westel, however it's going to work will have to be figured out based on who has what system at their PSAP.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if maybe our answer should be something more generic, like it should be accomplished through, software and hardware programming. I don't know, designated for that purpose. I don't know, we're answering the question with a component of the question. It's asking how's it going to be transferred, and we're just saying it will be transferred. So I don't know if that's sufficient. I'm just trying to avoid them telling us, well, you haven't really answered that question. You're just saying that it will be done.
Ken, question.
Yeah.
Are you saying A?
I'm on page 12, Nat, Chuck.
The second one down, A4?
Correct.
Yep.
So down below each one, it says data transfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's technical. It's a data transfer. I mean, unless you're getting specifics of how it's going to technically get done. I mean, it's a generic statement, but it meets the requirements, I would think.
I don't know that it does. I mean, it doesn't really provide much of an answer in terms of how. I mean, it's all data. It says, how will the data be transferred or relayed? And we're just saying the data will be transferred or relayed. Maybe that's acceptable. Maybe they kick it back to us and say, you got to amend this, once and which, but we're doing this now in a lot of cases, so I would think that we have some ability to answer it now
The only thing I could think
based
that
on
you could
existing
that
technology.
you could add would be like, via the EZNet. But again, I guess in and of itself, a data transfer dealing with the metadata is going to have to go over the EZNet anyway. So when I filled this out, I did just keep it short based on the fact that the data has to be pushed by way of the EZNet anyway.
Maybe they think maybe it's acceptable, but I'm just saying in the long run they're going to want to have a more technical answer on this, and we're doing that now with known technology. I'm just questioning whether or not it's going to pass muster once the state gets this in their hands.
Yeah, and I did have a lot of guidance from the state. I mean, a lot of the responses you see,
I mean, if they're
I did
okay
consult
with that
them.
general response, we're okay with it at this
Yeah,
point.
I mean,
When I look at some of the other examples that we've looked at in plans, usually they're giving a pretty technical response there.
Yeah, and this was a lot of meetings, classes, and when you don't have the specifics at this point, this is what the state was considering acceptable in regards to the transfer of the data.
And then on page 22, the question of adoption of rules establishing technical and operational standards for PSAPs. Check the answer next to each question 2 for all PSAPs. Are we assuming that's with the existing rules that are in place or with the rules that we have just adopted?
Yeah, I mean, it's talking about, does the PSAP currently meet the PSAP rules? And again, we're trying to tie these two documents. We're not there yet, but we're here. Every PSAP that we have in the county is compliant.
So that
with
is-
what they
yeah,
need
they-
to do,
okay.
so that is current.
Anything further? You ready to vote? That is a yes. Mr. McIntosh?
Yes.
What's the
So the
motion?
vote is to adopt page 24 and to,
Oh, the job page 24? Okay,
and to send to the final plan to the legal jurisdictions.
gotcha. I thought we voted on that already, Rich, but I missed
To
that.
adopt the final plan, we've already
I
done
thought
it
we were talking
before.
about, I thought we voted on that and we're moving on to the
The
final
final
plan.
plan.
Well, this is.
It's all
and
one.
this-
Time out.
It's both.
So we're adopting the final plan here.
That's right.
Did we vote on inserting all of those all of those additions to page 24 yet? Did we do a
Individually.
final vote? We
Yeah.
did them individually, and then the sheriff made a motion to incorporate them all into page 24. Did we vote on that? I thought we did.
His
We did
motion-
not.
His
All right.
motion was to
To
accept
incorporate all
page
those
24
changes, right?
and approve the final plan. It was one motion for both.
Okay, well, let's take those one at a time. There's a did you adopt the final plan was part of your motion, Sheriff? Okay. Is there should we be asking if there's any other comments from
We could.
our guests here before we make that final vote?
Would anybody from the audience like to speak on B and C?
Was there a second, Sheriff? Yeah.
I have a second from Morgan. Ready for vote? Mr. McIntosh,
Yes.
Mr. Hillier,
Yay.
Mr. Flippia,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Sheriff Lee Bruno,
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich. Yes. Very good. Well, the next steps I have is a meeting if necessary, but it doesn't look like a meeting's necessary in the near future. So we will work on getting these out to all the legal jurisdictions and the proper way, whether it's certified or, so keep an eye open for those and get them on our agendas. It's a good thing Doug Lewis is here. I'm sure he'll rush that through. But, and we will see where we end up. Hopefully we get it done sooner rather than later. So that being said, I can have a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
We're adjourned.